A big update in the Quadajah Johnson case. The Illinois Supreme Court has officially responded to Quadajah's defense team, and this is the response they've been waiting for. They wanted the order issued early, and that's exactly what they got. But does this mean Quadajah is walking out of jail today? Nah, not just yet. But it does mean one major legal battle is officially over. When people do the most, I do the analysis. Let's go. If you've been following this case, then you know the Illinois Appellate Court already ruled that Quadajah Johnson should not remain detained before trial because, and these are their words, not mine, the state failed to prove that she should stay in jail under the Illinois Pretrial Fairness Act. Of course, the state wasn't happy with that decision, so they asked the Illinois Supreme Court to review it. So last month on June 11th, the Supreme Court said no, we're not getting involved. They denied the state's petition for leave to appeal. That meant that the appellate court's decision stayed in place, and that decision was to set conditions for pretrial release. But there was still one problem, though. The trial court couldn't actually do anything yet. And why is that? Well, I'm glad you asked. It's because of a small administrative issue. The case hadn't officially been sent back. It was supposed to go back to the trial court, Judge Clancy's court, in the form of a mandate. The Supreme Court was planning to use the 35 days that they're given before issuing the official order, also known as the mandate. And that was going to happen on July 16th. But Quadajah's attorney, Ari Williams, she petitioned the Supreme Court and essentially said, what y'all waiting for? You can issue that mandate at any time, and I'm asking you to issue it immediately. That's where these two new documents come in. The first document says the Illinois Supreme Court granted the defense's motion for immediate issuance of the mandate. Now, I know it sounds like a bunch of legal jargon, but let me break it down real quick. It's actually quite simple. Think of the appellate court and the trial court like two different offices. When an appeal is pending, the appellate court is in charge. The trial judge has to wait. The trial judge in this case is Judge Clancy, so Clancy has to wait. The mandate is basically the paperwork that says, okay, we're finished here, trial court. Now you can have the case back. Proceed. Without that paperwork, Judge Clancy couldn't move forward, but now he can, and that's why this order is so important. The second document, though, it's really nothing new. It's simply a certified copy, if you will, of the Supreme Court's June 11th order denying the state's appeal. You know, that PLA denial. In other words, it's official now. The Illinois Supreme Court is not reviewing this detention issue. The appellate court's ruling stands. Now, a lot of y'all have been asking, is Quadajah getting released today? And the short answer is not automatically. This is the biggest misconception I expect to see online. But here's the thing. The mandate doesn't mean the jail doors open immediately. It does mean, though, that the trial court now has the authority to act. Now let's talk about what that action will look like. Judge Clancy will need to schedule a hearing, enter an order setting Quadajah's conditions of release, and those conditions have to be put into place. If you follow Trina Downs on Facebook, then you may have seen the actual paperwork she shared, which outlined all of the possible conditions for pretrial release. And let me tell you, it's a lot. Here's what her page looks like. She's Trina Downs testing the waters on Facebook. Go check her out and follow her. Subscribe while you're there because she is very informative and she's actual and factual with her commentary. I have great respect for her work. So depending on what Judge Clancy orders, it could include electronic monitoring, home confinement, no contact orders, travel restrictions, or other conditions allowed under the law. Only after those conditions are entered and any required arrangements are made, will Quadajah actually be released? So while issuing the mandate is a huge step, it's not the final step. Another important point I have to make is that none of this has anything to do with whether Quadajah Johnson is guilty or innocent. These orders are only about whether she remains in jail while waiting on trial, and she won't. The murder charges are still there, all 6 of them. The self-defense claim hasn't been decided, but that's her story, and she's sticking to it. The DNA evidence that everyone's talking about, it still hasn't been resolved. A jury still has to hear this case. That part is still ahead. And listen, this case is far from over. So where does that leave us? The Illinois Supreme Court has officially closed the book on the state's attempt to keep Quadajah detained through this appeal. The case now goes back to trial court with Judge Clancy presiding. The next chapter will be Judge Clancy deciding the conditions of Quadajah's pretrial release. And make no mistake about it, he's only enforcing this now because he has to. Judge Clancy has been adamant about keeping Quadajah behind bars because he believes the facts show that Quadajah Johnson is a murderer and a danger to the community once she's released pre-trial. But the Supreme Court has ruled, and so pre-trial it is. There's a status hearing scheduled for July 23rd in this case, and that could be when pre-trial release is granted. I'd be surprised, though, if Quadajah's attorney doesn't attempt to schedule a detention hearing with Judge Clancy sooner because she wants Quadajah released ASAP. I mean, her client has already been locked up for Christmas and New Year's and Valentine's Day and Easter and Mother's Day, her birthday, Juneteenth, 4th of July, Cinco de Mayo. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who can use this message. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and leave me a comment down below letting me know your thoughts. Do you think Judge Clancy will order strict conditions for a release, or do you think the process will move fairly quickly? Meet me in the comments. We can continue the conversation there.